Erev Tov, everyone. Chazal taught us that there are shivim ponim la Torah. The Torah can be understood, comes to teach us something on many different levels. So we're accustomed that there's the level of pshat and the level of drash, the medrash that we learn. There's a level of sod, Kabbalistic ideas. There's remez, the Torah hints at things. But that leaves over 66 other areas. And over the generations, the great Torah scholars of Israel have employed that latitude to fit ideas. The idea itself is correct. And to fit it into the words of the Torah, even though it certainly is not the pshat, nor even the drash, nor even remez or sod. This week's parsha, the parsha begins Rei Anochi, no say lifnechem hayom bracha oklola. Who is Anochi? Who's talking here? The Torah does not indicate. So there's a difference of opinion amongst the Meforshim. There are those that say Anochi is naturally Kavyocho, God himself, the Ribono Shel Olam. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. And there are those that say, no, it's Moshe Rabbeinu, because this is Mishnah Torah. Eila Advorim Asher Diber Moshe. So the Anochi is Moshe. Now, the Shechina Medaberes Mitov Grono, what Moshe says has efficacy and truth, but Moshe said it based on how we will interpret those two different ideas. So there are numerous nuances that the great men of Israel have used to understand the parsha. Because the word Re'eh is a difficult word here. You don't see bracha and klala. Many times just the opposite. What we think we see as a bracha is not. And the same thing is true the other way around. I always am reminded of a friend of mine, a survivor, whom I knew in Detroit. He was a great Talmud Chacham, very fine person. So he said that the Polish government passed a law, I think it was 1929 or 28. It was a draft law. Everybody had to go to the army, yeshiva boys included. There were no exemptions. Poland had just finished fighting a war with Russia. It knew it would have to fight a war with Germany. So everybody has to go. So the yeshiva students were not anxious to go to the Polish army. So they used to go to the Chafetz Chaim, and that he should give them a bracha that they don't have to go to the army. So when his turn came, the Chafetz Chaim then was very old. He was almost 100. So he went to the Chafetz Chaim, and Chafetz Chaim said, Bocher, what do you want? So he said, I want you to give me a bracha that I should be drafted to the Polish army. So the Chafetz Chaim said to him, you know, there have to be Jews in the Polish army also. So he left crestfallen. What happened was that he was drafted in the Polish army, and they put him in the medical corps. And then when Germany invaded, they called him up, but he was in the section of the Polish army that was captured by the Russians. And Poland was divided then between Germany and Russia. The Russians took all the Polish soldiers and sent them to the Gulag. The Germans killed them. The Russians worked them to death. In 1941, so Germany invaded Russia. So Stalin needed allies. And the only ally that he could have then was England, was Churchill. Churchill was a terrible anti-communist. But Churchill said that if the devil himself opposed Hitler, I would say a few kind words about him. So as a condition for England sending arms, and the arms really were American arms, to Russia, Churchill insisted that he had to free all the Polish prisoners, and they made a Polish army. Menachem Begin was in that army. So my friend was also in that army. And that army eventually had to pass through Eretz Yisrael. And a lot of the Jews disappeared from the army. And that's how my friend survived the war. So he said, the Chafetz Chaim gave me a bracha I didn't understand. For years, I had a complaint. You go to a tzaddik for a bracha, and he gives you a... I understand that he gave me a bracha. If I wouldn't have been in the Polish army, the Polish Jewry did not survive the Shoah. None of the yeshivas survived. So then what is Moshe Mirei? See, I'm giving you a bracha on a cloth. Where? You got a movie of it? How do I know what's a bracha and what's a klola? So one of the ideas, one of the shivim ponim laTorah, it's not the pshat. It doesn't appear in Medrash, but it does appear in later Sforim of the Achronim. Moshe is Anochi. Rei Anochi, no saying Lifnechem Hayom. Moshe is talking to them. Moshe says, I'm giving you the bracha call. And what is it? How do you lead? How are you the master of a people? So it obviously is by example. by behavior, by how people view you. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, look at me, Rei Anochi, look at me. So Moshe never went to yeshiva. We don't know Moshe till he's 80 years old. He's a son-in-law by Yisrael. He's a shepherd. He was raised in the house of Paro. How did he become Yishur Aug? Because Moshe developed himself. Moshe worked on himself. It's not by accident that he sees the burning bush. It's not by accident that Kaviyachol Rabboni Shalom chooses him. And he chooses him over Aaron, who has all the credentials. So Moshe said, listen to me, my friends. Rei Anochi, look at me. Look what you can make of yourself. And you can be a bracha, and you can be something else. So that is the challenge to every person. The Gaon of Vilna says that we're coming to the Yemei Adin V'Rachamim. So it says you have to give a din v'cheshbon. In Hebrew, we shortened it, it's a duach. So we think a duach is a report or it's a traffic ticket, whatever. It's din v'cheshbon. So the Gaon says, what's din v'cheshbon? Din is on what you did. Cheshbon is what you could have done. The opportunity that you had. What did you do with it? How did you use the gifts that God gave you? How did you do with life itself? That's the strongest ray that can be seen. So when Moshe says, Rei Anochi Nosei Lifneichem, Ayom Brocha Klola, look at me, he says. I'm the example. I start out in the house of Paro, and I end up that the Shekhinah speaks through my throat and my face shines. The possibilities of a human being to do great things, to be an example to others, to one's children, to one's family, to one's neighbors, to one's friends, the people who you meet on the street. Those are all opportunities. And that's part of what we hope for, that in the Yemei Rachmim V'Aslichos, the Rebbeinu Shalom will continue to provide us with opportunities, and we'll be able to recognize them and act correctly in order to bring them to a bracha. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer, Otsa Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Yisrael, Azuk L'Chir B'Lahem Torah Mitzvot.